What are the sneakiest uses of 301 redirects that you've seen?
I've seen some sneaky stuff. I would say the major thing that SEOs don't do is look at what is ranking. Like the only way you even see it is if you go into GSC and you see that your average CTR has gone up massively, and that's the only way. And people don't even look at that.
It's very easy to fuck that up.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not going to work. Like, why would that work?
So everybody was saying that blogging SEO is dead, and I was saying actually you can still make a lot of money out of doing it. You just have to do it in the right way.
It's endless opportunities that you've now got.
We would have data points that we could use that potentially nobody else even knew about in SEO because that is that new information. I think in general, in terms of faking EEAT, just entity building exercises and trying to make sure that it's kind of built out in the correct way is the number one thing. A link will boost the site and then later on it has a negative effect. iGaming and things, it's probably one of the harder industries to scale because you need to have a crazy budget. Like I'm talking serious money.
What are the sneakiest uses of 301 redirects that you've seen?
I've seen some sneaky stuff where hackers have got into large domains and then they've redirected pages from that domain to their website and it's ranked really well. So that's probably the sneakiest thing I've seen, where they're like going in, finding a page that has lots of really good links on the site, but they're only redirecting that page and then that website never even notices.
Yeah.
Or it takes them months or years to notice. That would probably be the sneakiest. There's also other things in general where people have redirected links. So you go into a page, they see, okay, this page's got loads of links going to it and it's got a redirect chain. They mess up that chain and they redirect that out to another site as well. So those are probably the sneakiest ones for sure. Yeah.
But I think that the whole purpose in redirects is obviously to try and pass juice over to your page or your category or whatever it is you're trying to power up. And people over the years have done that massively well, and Odys do that as a service. Again, a lot of people mess it up, as Charles has said. You know, there's a purpose to doing this, and you know, a lot of people don't realize if a domain doesn't have anything in the index, you have to revive what was there before you start doing the redirects. And a lot of people say things like redirects don't work, or they don't do this, or they don't do that, and they just don't do the kind of full process. They don't do it properly, and then they'll sit and argue going redirects are shit and they don't do this and they don't do that. And you're like, well, what did you do? I actually had a guy the other day and he's talking about redirects. He said, I keep doing these redirects and they're not working. I'm like, are you just going in and just redirecting the domain over? Is that all you're doing? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, of course that's not going to work. Like, why would that work? You know, it's crazy. You have to understand what happens when a domain goes down or whatever. You know, de-indexes, you need to get that thing back in the index before you start doing your redirects. Like, you're crazy to think otherwise. So, you know, people are not even doing that part properly. And again, if you can't be bothered, because it's all time consuming, it's all tedious stuff that no one can be bothered doing. So, you know, give it to someone who knows what they're doing. And it does have the time or the resource to be able to do it properly.
And what are rotating redirects?
Yeah, so you have rotating redirects and rotating links, right? Which basically just means that they're related to churn and burn, essentially. So churn and burn is you build a website, you spam the hell out of it for a couple of weeks, Google boosts it up to number one, you make $1 million, and then it goes down. And then you do the same thing again and again and again and again.
This is a very difficult tactic for iGaming in
international geos and things.
In regulated markets. Or
not really regulated, unregulated.
Unregulated.
Yeah, so like Sweden, Indonesia, places like that, very heavy, use those kind of things. When it comes to rotating redirects are basically employed in churn and burn, and rotating links are employed in churn and burn, so that when that site gets burned, you just move it to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one, and it just rotates every time, basically. You can also have rotating links, which that is a thing, but also has another thing where you rotate them onto different pages every day, basically, to try and get that page boosted, and then you have like link ghosting and all this kind of thing due to Google's cache. But it gets very technical very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you use that?
So you, again, for churn and burn. So you use it because that link is always a good link.
Okay.
But it will eventually burn whatever it's linking to, and so you just get it to Google's complicated when it comes to links, right? And this is where it does get pretty technical. And you have a lot of things that come into play, and Google's systems for links are delayed. So basically, you can have a link that initially goes up, but because the systems come later on, and it can take 2 weeks or whatever for it to process it, it ends up then directing you. So we actually see it sometimes where a link will boost the site and then later on it has a negative effect. So it can have a positive effect and then be negative later on. So you use rotating links in that way that it can have a negative effect later on. So you just rotate it before it ever has that negative effect. When it comes to rotating redirects and things, that's more to try and make sure that you're just moving it to whatever property you're ranking at the time. And just because the links are always going to be good, but that website might not be good with Google in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. So you move it to whatever website is good at the time.
That is the big thing for unregulated markets. You are going to go from site to site to site, and you just want to make sure that you pass the power to the next, because it's just website here, website A is the one, the man of the moment, and then it'll be website B, C, D, and you just got to make sure that you switch all of that out.
And that's where you also need the H domains, right, for Chernobyl to position them quickly.
Yeah.
And can you automate these rotating redirects or rotating links?
You can, but
it's very easy to fuck that up.
Yeah. And also, it's the point is that generally you're using it for when it gets burned. And you can't automate when it gets burned into the system. You can, but that's more complicated than just checking it.
It's one of those things that you probably you would need someone that just knows what they're doing and just does it.
Do it manually.
Yeah.
Because it'll be like Charles sending a WhatsApp, right? That's fucked. Like let's change.
Move. Yeah.
So actually, can you use cloaking in generating fake reviews, for example, so that they're not visible for Google?
So not really. Because of how Google schema and things work and stuff, it will always show this in the SERPs. But there's ways you can do fake reviews that look real and things. And stuff.
How do you do that? So how do
I can give you an example of something that's not known.
Okay.
TrustPilot. When you buy TrustPilot Pro, it allows you to then import reviews from other platforms. Okay, so you can import reviews from Google reviews, from Facebook reviews, things like that. It also allows you to upload and export of reviews. So you can download your Google reviews, you can export your Google reviews from Google. It will then allow you to upload that CSV into TrustPilot and add your Google reviews to TrustPilot. They don't validate the CSV on TrustPilot. So you can just download your Google reviews and then start adding lines of fake reviews, and it will upload it as if they are real reviews from Google with a Google verified checkmark and everything inside of TrustPilot. So things like that, where you have kind of exploits inside of the systems, you can upload reviews that have Google stamped checkmark and this and stuff, but they're not real.
Wow. So similar to manipulating reviews, can you manipulate engagement, user engagement?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways. Whether you use people, I've got friends who do mobile phones, but that's obviously really hard to scale. People have got botnets. I don't know how much I want to actually give away here without getting anyone
incriminating yourself.
Obviously people have emulators and stuff like that as well. And there's Vietnamese phone farms and everything, kicking about to do that stuff. I could throw that in there. It's nothing to do with me, the Vietnamese phone farms. In fact, I really should go and get a video of one of these. I want to see one in real life. So there's lots of different things. There's even guys out there over the years who you become part of a community. And basically you download this software which uses your browser and it uses everyone else's browser and all that kind of stuff. So there's so many different things that you can do to create engagement. The big thing is Google are becoming cleverer all the time, so they can detect certain things. And people used to use just bots to be able to kind of fake that stuff. I think Google have kind of cottoned on to that kind of stuff, and that's why you've got people running around with phones and Vietnamese phone farms. We walk into one of these shops and there's a wall full of things to do engagement on, and whether that's engagement on an organic page or a video or whatever, engagement does give things a spike, and it's how you go about doing that. But obviously there's other things in play as well that are not legit. So that's all I'm going to say. What are you going to say?
Yes, like CTR manipulation and things like that and stuff. And a lot of user engagement faking goes on, but again, it's hard to do because Google has these systems that try and detect unnatural patterns and things like that. And any kind of automated bots and things like that at scale are going to be unnatural patterns very easily. And then you do need to have like the geo-local relevance and things. If you're trying to get UK rankings, but you're using a Vietnamese phone farm, it's not going to work, right? So you need to make sure that you're making it look as natural as possible. Most of black hat comes back down to just making Google look like it's not black hat.
Keeping it natural. That's or natural looking.
But with the bots and manipulating CTR, this is again something seems to be easier to use against your competitors.
Yeah, exactly.
Than yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because how do you protect against that?
You can't, and the only way you even see it is if you go into GFC and you see that your average CTR has gone up massively, and that's the only way. And people don't even look at that.
Yeah,
they don't. And I don't think it's even default enabled in GFC, is it? I think it's clicks impressions only.
Yeah,
like click for it. So
yeah. So you'll notice way too late, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But what are you going to do about it? You just need to block.
What are you going to do about it?
You just need to put your website down.
Yeah.
And block everyone
from more traffic.
Yeah. Because the thing is, these people can change the look. I mean, you could block if it was a Vietnamese phone farm. You could block all Vietnam IPs or whatever. But if these people are clever enough to know what they're doing and they can change all of that kind of stuff, you need to block the world. You need to block your website to the internet to deal with it. So,
and at some point, if you try and do that, they'll just use the botnet to DDoS you instead.
Yeah,
they'll just crash your website instead.
So, yeah, it's
And what if they, for example, send bots that go to your website and bounce?
Yeah, so that's like negative CTR.
Yeah,
manipulation.
Yeah.
And what about other techniques? For example, the dwell time on the website is an important signal as well, and very important for in iGaming. So, what tactics can you implement to keep players on the site? Not necessarily psychological, but for example, like increasing or infinite scrolls or closed content.
Keeping users engaged on the site
Yeah.
is generally a CRO / UX UI design things, and I tend to stay away from that because I'm colorblind.
Okay.
I routinely I'm like, this is not the right color for the button, and he's like, no, it is the right color.
But there's guys that are specialists in that, like Kurt Phillip or whatever. These guys are, working with data and have done it on such a massive scale that they are in a much better position to say what works and what doesn't. You've got all the kind of stuff behind the scenes to monitor what users do, where they're getting lost on a website, where it's not working. So, trying to make sure that you do that better is going to get massive gains. And I think there's specialists in that very, very topic. It'd be insane to think the SEO guys can do that. We are typically not get the attention spans to sit there and analyze all of that, I would say, for the most part.
And it's also most SEOs are not great at design anyway.
No, dude. I can barely pick a t-shirt and shorts that go together. Never mind anything else.
Well, black always works.
That's why.
I drew specifically for the topics. But so can you talk about manipulating EAT then? Does it make sense? Can you do it? Is it worth it?
I mean, EAT, it's a link building exercise. You need to be on a multitude of different websites, whether that be Wikidata, whether that be all of the kind of other entities, Crunchbase, LinkedIn, all of that kind of stuff. It's all link building, if you like. And can you manipulate that? Absolutely, you can. You can go to legit and pay someone to place you on wiki data and stuff like that. So it's just about being on the right places that Google like or trust or whatever you want to call it. And there's a great website out there, which is Jason Bernard's Calicube, which gives you an idea of where you need to be. Obviously, it will list things like Wikipedia, which as an SEO is really, really hard to get because they don't like SEO people, because we always manipulate stuff on the internet. So I've tried maybe 5 or 6 times to do Wikipedia and I can't get it. You know, even as an actor, a very bad actor at that, I wasn't even able to get my page to stick, and I'd done it in a foreign country. It stuck for a while, and then as soon as we changed it to English, it get taken down. So, you know, Wikipedia is a really hard one to get, but there's so many others that Jason will his website will list. You know, Amazon, all of these kind of places are great places to maybe do your books and stuff like that. So building up all of that is going to build up your expertise, authority, and trust. And, you know, I know people that have done it for fake personas and stuff like that as well. So, yeah, it's very, very easy to do that.
Yep, exactly. Calicube, to be fair, for it. I think in general, in terms of faking EEAT, just entity building exercises and trying to make sure that it's kind of built out in the correct way is the number one thing. And you can pay for certain websites and things that will give you, you know, profile schema markup and things and stuff that will help Google understand your entity better and recognize it and things. And obviously Wikipedia is the number one source of Google's entity knowledge and things and stuff anyway. So
Yeah, and getting data is very important, right? And scraping is like a basic technique. Can you share any most ingenious uses you've seen of scraping?
we use it in house pretty geniusly. So I own part of Presswiz, which is a link building marketplace. There's only one other competitor that I'm aware of that does what we do, which is basically we scrape our entire inventory when we sell links. So we scrape all the pages on the websites that we sell links from, and that allows us to have a search engine internally, which means that we can go and search for pages on websites and then go and build links on those specific pages. So we found we use it in sales really well, because when we get people come on, we're like, okay, who are your top 3 competitors? And we can go and put all of those 3 competitors into the search engine, find all their links that we have in their inventory, and immediately go and get competitors' links for our clients. And that's a massive sales hack, time hack, everything else, right? And it costs us a few $1,000s to scrape nearly 50,000 websites every month. So it's a very cost-effective way to get that access. In terms of other scraping for AI usage, right? So right now there's all these systems. I just did a webinar a couple of weeks ago on how you can use N8N, which is this AI workflow builder, to basically, my main workflow was actually that you can have your own custom WhatsApp agent and things, but I had another workflow where we were scraping YouTube videos. So we take YouTube channels from an RSS feed. Every time they would upload a video to YouTube, it would transcribe that video. So it would take all the transcriptions through, and then an AI agent would extract new information. So it would extract, okay, they're recommending this tool, this using this sponsor, they're doing this, they talked about this piece of news, all of this kind of thing, and then it would put it into a sheet. So every single time these YouTube channels would upload, we would have data points that we could use that potentially nobody else even knew about in SEO, because that is that new information, right? It's a news story broke an hour ago, so they've done a whole detailed video going down the paper that isn't even indexed in Google, right? The Science Journal and stuff. So things like that is really powerful as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, with scraping, it depends on what you want to do. Obviously, the data is all there, and it's how you utilize that to your advantage. I actually quite like that one, in terms of the NAN and getting an agent to do the donkey work for you and come to you, and then you can obviously jump and, you know, pump out a new video, because there's AI guys, especially, it's a hot topic just now. AI guys pumping all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff out there, and I'm in the AI agent space as well, and I want to do more of that stuff, and it's always, I'm just sitting going, what other things, because I don't want to do it for SEO people, I want to do it for other businesses out there, and where we can do custom built AI agents and stuff like that. And it's probably quite important for me to be able to see what other things are being automated from, you know, these AI guys, and it's mind blowing, you know, all of the kind of stuff that you can automate now. And yeah, I think, you know, if you can do that to do the research for you, because that's where a lot of us can't be bothered. You know, you're just like, I can't be bothered doing manual research. So if you can use automation to do your research for you, happy days. But you know, scraping, people in the SEO space have scraped for years, you know, using Scrapebox and you know, whether you're scraping just phone numbers or emails from a website, you know, to do spam, you know, that's where pretty much a lot of that stuff started. You know, you would scrape things like that to sell to people, but obviously the more sophisticated everything becomes and the more data there is out there, you can literally scrape what you like. And I think it's endless opportunities that you've now got.
I think the best example is probably Julian Goldie. He has a YouTube system where whenever AI news is released, it sends a trigger through N8N again, which is a great tool, to be fair. It sends a trigger through N8N, which basically then creates a script example. And he can go through and he just checks every morning to see what script it's created. And he will go through and he'll be like, okay, it's created this script for him. I like this topic. Don't like all the rest of them. Bin these. I like this one. And then he'll use HeyGen, which is an AI video tool, to turn that script into a video of him with he's an AI avatar, but it's him talking to the screen about this AI news, and then he'll upload it to YouTube. And it takes him like 5 minutes to do the entire thing. And some of those videos get 100,000 views.
So let's talk about structured data. Can you optimize them beyond Google's guidelines? And when and how would you do it?
Yeah, so you can 100% optimize. You can optimize schema, because schema / microdata, the main premise is it allows Google to understand information that it doesn't have to infer, right? So it understands this is the business name, this is the phone number, this is the address, right? Otherwise, the algorithm has to infer that information. And a lot of the time, it doesn't get that information 100% right all the time, right? And it can miss things up and stuff. So basically, you give Google something it can read 100% of the time, versus your website, it can read maybe 90% of it, right? At any given time. When it comes to faking that, that means that you can give it data that isn't necessarily accurate. So I think the most common example is in local SEO, where Google in the maps, if somebody is searching at 3 a.m. and your opening hours on the website, your schema, your opening hours on the Google Maps and things are 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., then they won't show you because you're not open, right? So a lot of people just put their hours in schema and on Google Maps and things 24/7, even if they're not, so that you're constantly shown at all hours.
I mean, schema is one of those things. I'm not I've never really dived that deep into it. Is it a big needle mover? You know, in terms of going out there and adding schema to all your pages and stuff like that. I've never really seen any kind of major. It doesn't pay. I'm not going to make any more money by doing that, implementing it. I've always been the lazy guy where I'm like, I'm not really going to. I mean, I've got About Me schema and all that kind of stuff, but like for some of my e-com stores, have I implemented that stuff? No, I haven't. I've actually been quite lazy with it. And has it impacted my rankings or money that much? No, it hasn't. So I wouldn't claim to be a schema expert by any stretch of the imagination. About Me schema, all of that kind of stuff, just for the kind of EEAT stuff. But I'm not someone who believes in it being a big needle mover, if that makes sense.
More of a consensus thing as well, I think. So if you go into a recipe SERP, you should probably have recipe schema, because every other site has recipe schema, right? So it's more of just a ticking the box kind of thing, because Google actually baked consensus into the algorithm about 2 years ago. And as a result, now you have to actually have the same. Like everybody goes on about, oh, you need unique content. Well, realistically, you don't want it to be too unique, because Google won't actually rank it. You need the same as what other people have, right? So you need to kind of just, it's like I said, it's a tick boxing exercise where you tick the box that 90% of your competitors have it, we should probably have it.
Can you use it in iGaming?
Yeah. There's different uses in iGaming, I'm sure. It's like event schema for all the events and things. Like I play online poker a lot. I play in-person poker a lot as well. And I routinely go and Google things, and I don't leave the SERP, because the event schema shows when the events are actually happening at the time. So I don't need to go and click through to the page, because I see it there, right? So that is both online. So it will actually show the online events, and it will show the real person events as well.
Oh, so you know it from both perspectives, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So you're both known for like testing the limits of SEO. What are the most recent ones that you managed to pull off? Can you share?
I don't think I can share that. It's all client based, so it'd be
okay.
breaking confidentiality, I think. But for my own projects, I do stuff like routinely on Twitter. So I show stuff that is ranking and things that I've done online. Last year, I was doing the case study where I ranked for Andrew Tate. So I ranked #1 for Andrew Tate's course and things, and then basically said it was a scam.
Jesus.
And then he was, his brother was commenting on my girlfriend's Instagram. It escalated.
It escalated.
Yeah. But I basically did an exercise where I just showed this is how. So everybody was saying that blogging SEO is dead. And I was saying, actually, you can still make a lot of money out of doing it. You just have to do it in the right way. So I showed, actually, if you want to rank for this SERP, and I ranked #1, and everybody else in the SERP was DR70, DR60, DR80. I was a DR25, I think. So it's really, really low compared to them. And I was competing versus like BBC and stuff at one point and things. Once you actually start analyzing the SERP, it tells you what you need to rank, basically. So I would say the major thing that SEOs don't do is look at what is ranking. Go and analyze what's ranking, what they have. And I'm not talking about the word count. I'm talking about the links, the internal links, the schema on the page, the load time, making sure that you're better or at least as good, but you have a higher domain authority than what is already there, right?
And even things like type, right? The video versus blog.
And like,
versus,
and even what it's going back to like Corey style SEO, and Corey's kind of framework. Word positioning is really important. So, and again, because consensus is baked into the algorithm, I went and analyzed the SERP and I realized actually the major pages ranking are saying that it's a scam. So I want to say it's a scam as well, because I want to match what is already ranking and match the consensus. But I did it in a way that is better for Google's bots to understand than anybody else had done. So I positioned the wording, and I did a whole Twitter thread on exactly how I did it and all the breakdown and things. And we used some advanced schema kind of mechanics and things to make sure that we had review schema and stuff that was ticking all the boxes and things properly and was showing the SERPs and get us a bigger box in the SERPs and things like that. But yeah, so that was probably the most recent example that I can really think of, and that was 2 years ago. So.
Cool.
There's a couple other examples that I've shown recently of us building links and things in minutes using AI and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I've got a private mastermind where I share all sorts of weird and wonderful things. It's I don't tend to do them publicly anymore. Just I've never really done them publicly because you've got fucking rain men sitting in their boxer shorts who hate your guts, who are taking or reporting and things like that. But, you know, doing all of these kind of fun experiments, you know, I've done tests with Holly Starks and stuff like that as well, trying to rank for this, that and the next thing. And I think you've always just got to be testing in these kind of group environments. I think it's good competition to say, I can rank for this or I can rank for that. And you know, we learned a lot from that. So we done one a couple of years ago, and there was maybe about 10 or 15 of us, and Holly was one of them as well. And you know, she's black hat, she'll try everything and anything, and the job was to rank for a specific search term. And you know, it was always, people were trying to do PR blast. You were allowed to rank for this term, whether it be an image, whether it be a GMB, whether it be an exact match domain, whether it be whatever you wanted, a YouTube video, whatever you wanted to throw at it, you could. You had 24 hours. And it was wild to see how everyone tried to do it. And there was guys trying to leverage like Parasite, like Madge from Magic PR. He waited until 5 o'clock and slapped out a PR on it so that he got on Yahoo Finance to try and dominate the thing for it. And you know, I cleverly thought, I mean, I'm going, you fucking dirty dog. And then I thought, Randy, who does PRs is in America, he's 6 hours behind. So I phoned Randy and I'm like, Randy, what's the last time you could put a PR in? And he's like, well, I've got another 4 hours. And I'm like, right, cool. So, you know, even for things like that, it was all about timing, you know, because everyone knows what they're doing. But, you know, what we also found from that as well, people had GMBs, people had all sorts of other stuff. But what we found that was quite interesting in there as well, this person, whoever, I can't remember the name of the person who bought the exact match domain for the term that we wanted to go after, they were automatically assigned the GMB, right? And then people were going, Craig, you fucking pinched my GMB, you fucking dirty bat. And I'm like, I've not fucking pinched anything. So we've learned a lot from that in terms of like Google auto-assigning the GMB to the guy that had the exact match domain, and weird and wonderful stuff like that as well. So until you're getting your hand, and we were all fighting with each other, you fucking stole this and you stole that, and you're like, I never fucking touched anything, what the fuck are you talking about? So, you know, it was all about timing and different strategies and stuff like that, and I like things like that because it's fun, it's interesting, and it's also interesting. We've done that, and Holly Starts actually travelled to Vegas to do a phone thing to compete in that test. There was no money in it for anyone. Like, she fucking went out with all her phones to do all the kind of phone shit with it as well. So some of these SEO people, it doesn't even matter about money. They will go to fucking the ends of the earth to fucking beat you, just to tell their mates down the pub, yeah, I beat him. You know, I enjoy things like that, and you find out a lot of what does work and what doesn't work, and even things that you never even thought were a thing when you do these things as well. So I find all of that interesting, and all of these kind of fun games happen all of the time.
That's a very cool story. So I wanted to tie it back to iGaming, since we're almost out of time. With so many differentiated markets, companies that operate in multiple locations, are there any good ways to scale? How do you do it correctly? Do you have to build teams dedicated to separate locations? Can you actually scale operations? How does that work?
I think scalability in anything is something every company wants, and you are going to have teams, SOPs, you know, even people in specific countries as well. These are all things that anyone should be having. You know, the more that you do, the more team, you know, the bigger team you're going to have, and you know, whether you're focusing in Brazil, you know, you might be focused in Brazil, but you might be in the US and you're trying to break into the Brazilian market, and you're maybe trying to go into some unregulated markets in Indonesia as well. Maybe that's your thing. You're going to have teams dedicated to doing all of that if that's your way of making money. And you know, everyone can scale. It's just getting the right people and leveraging people from other countries that are from a lower cost of living. And I think, you know, scaling anything from an SEO perspective, you know, we can't really afford to go and hire everyone in the UK who wants a ridiculous wage and they've not got the same work ethic as well. So, you know, a lot of people do outsource a lot of their grunt work, if you like, to countries with a much lower cost of living, and it works very, very well. But you've just got to have the right systems, communication-wise, the right onboarding, the right training, the right advice, and all of that kind of stuff, and then anything is possible from there on in. Whether it be your link building team, content, video, whatever, you know, they don't have to be sat in one office in one location all over the world. And certainly, if I'm getting into the Brazilian market, I ain't going to be hiring a bunch of guys in the UK. You know, I need to be getting people that actually understand Brazilian culture, and you know, something that you said, Charles. There are guys there that I wouldn't have automatically thought of that maybe don't declare their money. We may from the UK automatically assume that Brazil is a poor country, you know, with the favelas and whatnot. You know, that's just your instant thought. You know, and unless you've maybe been there or you know people there, you probably realise that there's probably a lot of wealthy people who like gambling. You know, you see the footballers, Ronaldinho and stuff, they're crazy guys, they've got money, they like partying and drinking, and there's probably a million of those guys over there as well, and we automatically go, that's not so great. So I think sometimes you need people who understand what is actually going on there as well.
Yeah, everything Craig said. In terms of scaling iGaming and things, it's probably one of the harder industries to scale, because you need to hit everything in a very competitive industry. And so it's more of a game of just outperforming competitors. And if you are scaling, you're scaling in this market, you need to have a crazy budget. Like, I'm talking serious money to be able to scale, even just because just in SEO, you probably need millions of dollars annually to compete for one website. Then you have your PPC, then you have your brand protection, then you have your social media, then you have the retargeting, then you have, you know, your website, your UX, your CRO, all of these things. And then you times that by 10 because you're competing in an industry where everybody else is doing all of that for the last several years, and you have to play catch up. So it's really expensive to be able to actually scale in iGaming, and you need investors or budgets or something to be able to do it. And everybody that is successful in this market generally has got backing from some serious players.
Very interesting. So just to close it, what trends are you betting on for this year in Black Hat SEO?
I don't know if I'm gambling in trends as such. I'm more going down the kind of AI agent and seeing what things I can do faster and better. I think the AI is going to have a big part to play in marketing overall, and how I can use that in the iGaming space is, well, it's not going to directly work, but AI is stuff that I'm massively into and excited about. NAN and all the kind of stuff you can do there. Can you make your teams more efficient, work faster, everything else? And I think all of that in a competitive space kind of goes hand in hand. We can do things faster, better, and all that kind of stuff, and be more competitive. And hopefully we're doing things smarter than the competition, because they might be slower in the uptake in terms of automating what they can.
Yeah, I'm saying with AI, to be fair. In terms of trends, links, I always bet on links, to be fair.
Links, PBNs.
Yeah, usually seems to like links. It was kind of how they founded their entire search engine. So I tend to just bet that links will continue to be profitable going this year. And then I still believe Parasite is really strong in international geos, and people aren't using it as much as they could be. I know Brazil is a good example, because we rank in Brazil with Parasite pages using their Metropole. So you can, there's the number one newspaper in Brazil, but you can for free as well. Yeah.
So there is still room in Parasite.
Massive room. And there's new players figuring it out. A lot of the publishers, they might offer a sponsored editorial or an advertorial or something like that, but they're only realizing that actually they're charging $500 when they could be charging $5,000 for that post. So
yeah,
I was in Greece a few months back at a conference, nothing to do with iGaming, but these guys didn't even know how to rank a GMB. I mean, it's scary, like scary, the untapped opportunities that something like Parasite, you could probably go in there with anything and fucking take over, literally take over. So although it's, fairly prominent, it probably isn't even prominent. Parasite SEO, people are like, oh, that's bad or whatever. But, UK, US markets like that, people are aware of it. But I think there's so many other untapped opportunities for it. So I think there's still massive amounts of legs on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. This was like such an engaging discussion, and I hope you like this as well. If so, please follow Craig, follow Charles, follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter. You can also contact directly if you want to find out more about things we didn't talk about. You can contact me. I have phone numbers. I will act as affiliate. And definitely subscribe to Others podcast. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Thank you.